Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We have about 6 topics. One is the Pentagon decides to bring submarines and more vessels in the Middle East to prevent Iran defending itself against, or maybe help Israel defend itself against Iranian, aggression. That's one. We have the Israeli defense minister talking to an American, Mr. Lloyd Austin, the guy in charge of the American military. And he, the Israeli defense minister, tells Lloyd Austin that Iran will attack Israel. Therefore, we need to step in and have our boys and all that. That's the first one. China defends Iran's right to defend itself and its independence and sovereignty. So the United States of America is at yes sir of that country. China will defend Iran. Now those are two related pieces of news. Another one, the Ukrainian incursion in Kursk creates evacuation not only in Kursk but also in Belgorod. Yesterday I covered a piece of news where the Russians reportedly evacuated more than 76,000 people from Kursk Oblast, Kursk region. Right now, I'm going to show you on the map, the Russians are evacuating from Belgorod region. Now that's one piece of news. Why? Because the Ukrainians allegedly, or Russians are claiming, are 30 kilometers inside of Russia. Putin vows to send them back, obviously. So we have another incident where Zaporozhye nuclear power plant in Enerhodar was shelled and it's on fire. And obviously the Ukrainians claim the Russians set it on fire themselves. And I will show you the big lie, because we have Zelensky over there. Big lie. Why would the Russians do that? And then you have the Russians saying, actually, is the guys who want Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. They are shelling it. So it's again the blame game. If you remember, that the Dnieper River water dam that was blown up by the Russians, again because the Zelensky Stein said so. All right, so that's another topic, and the Russians trying to have the international community involved in all this nuclear power plant attack. Now, what is the what is the international community? Well, when the West is talking about the international community, is formed of about 3 or 4 countries plus the vassal states, usually no more than 30 states, European 98% of them. If you include Australia, New Zealand, Japan and South Korea, that's about it. You got some islands like Palau and Pakalau and Zapalau, and this is the international community. Usually it's about 3 countries. United States of America, Great Britain, and whomever is over there ready to jump in, Israel or something. That's international community. When another country like Russia or China calls on the international community, they talk about the 193 countries registered at the United Nations. So let's see what other topic we have here. And that is, I want to show you how the media in the West portrays the attack on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant versus the Russians. And I would like you to use your logic, our Western logic, not the Middle Eastern, and I'm talking about one specific logic, the Judeo logic. I don't want you to use that logic. They didn't even know what the fuck that was. Anyway, we set the definitions, and which is the ancient Greeks to be more specific. But anyway, let's go to the first article. Very dangerous development. Associated Press. Pentagon chief orders submarine to the Middle East, tells aircraft carrier to hasten its transit. So this guy, who maybe decides tomorrow that he was a victim of discrimination in the past, even though he's the general and he worked for, if I remember, he was on the board of Raytheon, arms manufacturing company, and now he's in charge of the Pentagon, giving orders or to the Raytheon and Boeing and Lockheed Martin. But hey, that's nothing wrong with that. There's no corruption, because America is fantastic compared with other baboons, but it doesn't live up to what it aspires to, and is telling us through its system operatives, which is the mass media and entertainment industry and schools owned by the same guys. So let's go to this article and see how this American could tomorrow decide to take care of a certain kind of group because of past discrimination, and reparations could be enforced with military. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has ordered a guided missile submarine to the Middle East and is telling the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group to sail more quickly to the area, the Defense Department said on Sunday. The move comes as the U.S. and other allies, yes, they're allies, push for Israel and Hamas to achieve a ceasefire agreement. No, they don't push for that. That's my assessment. I've said that many times before. Since it escalated again on October 7th, the Americans kept everybody at bay to have these guys destroy the other ones. And they started talking and said, if you guys intervene, we're going to queue up. We don't care, because the order came from, you know where? Washington, D.C. Why? Because Washington, D.C. is owned by the same guys. Who are those guys? Well, you know. So, until, as I said this, until Israel takes care of what's going on over there completely, nobody will move. Unless someone will decide to, act hastily. All right, let's go back to this one. This is my assessment. That's what's going to happen. They're all concerned and super concerned, but don't, in the same time, they provide weapons and money to the same guys. Major Pentagon press secretary said in a statement that Austin spoke with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, born in Jerusalem in 1962. I'm just kidding. Earlier in the day, and reiterated America's commitment. No, I'm part of America. I have no commitment towards that. But hey, they make us to have the commitment to take every possible step. Nuclear weapons is a possible step to defend Israel, and noted defend Israel. Okay, and noted the strengthening of U.S. military force posture and capabilities throughout the Middle East in light of escalating regional tensions. Why don't you call the names? Who's escalating who? Anyway, and we have this. Reuters Israeli minister tells U.S. that large-scale Iranian attack expected. Axios reports. Maybe so. So this is the American, and this is the Israeli. Right? This guy can destroy most of this planet, supposedly, if he's really in charge, and this guy is his buddy, if you know what I mean. So Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Sunday that Iran was making preparation for a large-scale military attack on Israel. Possibly, probably, but remember, Israel will have to act in self-defense, and the Americans have to use their weapons, money, and people to defend Israel. Why? You know. BBC News. Ukrainian troops now up to 30 kilometers inside Russia, Moscow says. Ukrainian troops have advanced up to 30 kilometers inside Russia in what has become the deepest and most significant incursion since Moscow began its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. I disagree with this characterization of the Russian military operation. It's not a full-scale invasion because they didn't conduct a general mobilization, which is about 30 million Russians at least. They didn't use nuclear weapons yet. They didn't use everything they got. So it's not a full scale. It's a controlled military operation. I think the Russians are using between 5 and 6.5% of their capabilities to fight NATO at this point. But hey, that's just me. You don't have to believe me. Russia's defense ministry says its forces has engaged Ukrainian troops near the villages of Tolpino and Obshchi Kolobez as the defense offensive on Kursk region entered a sixth day. Foreign ministry spokeswoman, she's a woman, not a person here, Maria Zakharova accused Kyiv of, and I'm quoting, intimidating the peaceful population of Russia. Well, you know, you do this, they do this, you do this, they do this. That's the way it goes. It shouldn't have started in the first place. So that's one. And then we have Reuters, August 12, 2024. Putin says Russia will expel Ukrainian forces from border region. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that the army would eject Ukrainian troops from Russian sovereign territory after Kyiv's biggest incursion across the border since the start of the war. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Right here. In the neighboring Belgorod region to the south, regional governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said evacuations of civilians had begun from the Krasnaya Yaruga district due to enemy activity on the border. So where is that at? Here is the map of Ukraine. This is Belgorod. This is Kursk. So here is where this incursion occurred in this area, and the Russians, as I said, evacuated more than 76,000 people from this area, this region, and now they are evacuating from this region bordering Kursk and Ukraine. All right, let's see what do we have here. Next, Russian authorities announced evacuation for Belgorod border district. The same thing I said over there. So we have an alarming morning, said Belgorod governor. The enemy is active on the border of Krasnoyaruski district. We are beginning to relocate residents of the Krasnoyaruski district to safer locations. The Krasnoyaruski district is located about 50 kilometers from the town of Sudza in Kursk Oblast, which Ukrainian forces reportedly captured on August 6th. And they blew up a distribution station, a gas distribution station. All right, what's going to happen over there? The Russians will push them back eventually, and if they can't, they could use always nuclear weapons and have the sponsors of this war back the fuck off and save lives, as the Americans save lives through Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Remember, the good Americans, right, or the guys in charge of America at that time, said that if Japan doesn't surrender unconditionally, that means pants down, underwear down, bent over and free to go, then the Americans will continue blowing up Japanese cities one after another. That is genocide. So if you don't stop and you don't bend over, and as I vividly explained what's going on, the Americans would have gone to Yokohama, maybe to Sapporo, and then they would go to all these big towns. So the Japanese said, okay, these guys are the people of the good, so we have to do it. Otherwise, they will give us so much goodness with their atomic bomb that we will disappear. So let's do it, and they did it. All right, my friends. So they claim that they did it to stop the war early and to save our boys. Now, if Russia, Putin, the crazy dictator, would use the same logic, that will stop the war right there. I guarantee you that, unless the other guys want to die, and they don't want to die. I'm talking about the elites that are in control of many things, and definitely will save Russian lives, their boys' life, and the Ukrainians' life, because the war is not going to destroy the Ukrainian nation, as Zelensky Stein, Zhmyhal Stein, Yermak Stein, Reznikov Stein, Umerov, the guys in charge of the Ukrainian nation, all Ukrainians, 100%. All right, let's go to the next article here, and we find out that China supports Iran. It's clear. China supports Iran in defending security. This is, you see, this is Reuters, says foreign minister. But if we look at the details, it's defending not security in general, but something else. Why? Because this is Reuters and they are garbage. Beijing, China supports Iran in defending its sovereignty, security, and national dignity. Compare that and contrast that with the title. Iran defending security. Whose security? Its security or the regional security? The regional security as well, but that they made it as a general statement about the general security when actually this guy said its, that is Iran's sovereignty, security, and national dignity. Why? Because they were bombed. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told Iran's acting foreign minister in a phone call on Sunday, according to a statement by China's foreign ministry. In a phone call, Wang repeated Beijing's denunciation of assassination of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran on July 31st, saying the strike had violated Iran's sovereignty and threatened regional stability. So what do you think, my friends? And here, let's go with this one. Wang Yi, whatever, told Ali Bagheri Khani, Iran acting foreign minister, that the killing of this guy had, and I'm quoting, directly undermined the Gaza ceasefire negotiation process and undermined regional peace and stability. And China supports Iran, I'm quoting, in defending its sovereignty, security, and national dignity in accordance with the law, and in its efforts to maintain regional peace and stability, and stand ready to maintain close communication with Iran. Got it? Got it. I think we don't have to beat around the bushes that China, Russia, and Iran and the axis of the club of the good are really showing everybody else, come to me, I will defend you from the big boy over there that is leashed by the little fucker. You know who the little fucker is? Okay, if you know, that's good. If you don't, watch my videos and you will figure it out. All right, Sputnik. China supports Iran's effort to ensure regional peace, again, and stability. These guys use the same title as these guys right here. Why? They don't want to be so inflammatory, right? And we have China supports Iran in defending its sovereignty, security, and national dignity in line with the law, as well as its efforts, this is the second part, efforts in maintaining regional, so Iran maintains regional peace and stability, according to the Chinese, and is ready to keep in close touch with the Iranian party, he said. All right, my friends, international community should immediately, and I'm quoting, unite efforts and assist that the conflicting parties truly implement the relevant resolutions of UN Security Council and create conditions for a rapid, complete, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, end quote, Wang said. Blah, 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 blah. But that helps, because there are others who listen to these words and say, oh, so we have Russia, we have China, we have Iran, we have North Korea, we have, ooh, look at that, balloons, I'm going, bye-bye. We have Venezuela, we have possibly Turkey, but Turkey is an upper, how do you call it? Is it just, how do you call that? They're looking for their interest. So, and then is many other countries, South Africa, Brazil, possibly, many countries in the Latin America, South America, many countries in Africa, many countries in Europe, but they are still grabbed by the balls by the Al Capone. So they can't do squat now. All right, let's go to the attack on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant by the Russians themselves. Now, let me give you a short summary or history of what happened and a chronological set of events that occurred on about 6th of March 2022. So remember, the Russians invaded, full-scale invasion of Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022. And then on the 6th of March or 5th of March, around that area, so in about 10 days, they occupied Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, the Enerhodar. I will show you the map where that is located. And they took control of the Ukrainian Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. So that's Ukrainian. Obviously, the Ukrainians want it back. So how do you take it back? I mean, there's many ways to take. I mean, sucking it, talking about it, bending over, or punching someone in the face. The guys in charge of Ukraine decided that they should take Zaporozhye back by fighting. Good job. Good job. They tried to shell it, and they claimed it was the Russians shelling themselves on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Why? Let's make a big lie. Because the Russians are blackmailing the whole world, the European Union as well. Got it? You believe that? No. But hey, that's how a big lie works. It's so extraordinary that you think it's impossible for these guys to really make up such a obviously imbecilic lie. That's the whole point. Who came with the big lie? Not Goeb and not Adolf. Adolf talked about it in his book, My Struggle. Right? If you look over there, he says those are the guys who came out with the big lie. So it was not him. He just pointed out who and what it is through direct observation. I know. He's an idiot. He's the most evil person in the world, and we denounce 100%, don't we? Yes. So that's how it got into Russian possession, the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. And now the Russians set fire on it because they're losing and they want to blackmail the West. You got that? That is the big lie coming from Mr. Zelensky Stein. Let's move on. Here. Russian special operation pop. What's known about Ukraine's attack on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant? Question mark. Now this is what the Russians are claiming. But I will show you how the Western media owned by the Middle Eastern portrays this. So it's a smoke over there on the water. Earlier on Sunday, the governor of Russia's Zaporozhye region, let me show you where that is first. So that is, if I remember correctly, right here. And I'm going to go like this, and like that. Energodar. Here is the Energodar, and here is the power plant right exactly there. This is in Ukraine's control, this is in the Russian control. So the Russians shelled it because they want to threaten the world. All right, this is how the story goes. Not these guys shell it so they can say the Russians did it and we want it back. Well, should the Russians give it back? I think they will never give it back unless they are destroyed. And after all, I know that United Nations, one of their charters, I know that under the war, I mean, if you take territorial possessions during the war, so let's say I'm Israel and I go over the Golan heights, and I go over there during the war, being attacked in self-defense, okay, and I took over. When the war is over, I give that back. But hey, only the Russians should give back. Those guys never, ever, ever. Why? You know, they're special, right? So if the Russians should give this thing back because they took over with invasion, even though the people in, if I remember correctly, voted to join Russia. I know that was a fake referendum, fake voting to join Russia and be independent. I know that. But hey, let's play along like Kosovo. All right, then the Russians have it. So they shell their own nuclear power plant, which I think is the biggest in Europe, because they are baboons. That's how the story goes. And you must believe that. Why? Zelensky Stein tells you that. Like the Russians blew up that Kakhovka hydroelectric dam. The Russians did it. Why? Because Zelensky Stein told you that. And the mass media said exactly the same thing. All right, so let's go back to this. I need a big scheme of things. I want to show you where Energodar is. All right, so here you have the Crimean Peninsula, all right, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kharkiv, and so on, or Kharkov. Let's go to this. Where is it? Right here. So earlier on Sunday, the government of the Zaporozhye region said that as a result of shelling of the city of Energodar by the Ukrainian armed forces, a fire had broken out at Zaporozhye nuclear power plant cooling system facility. It was later determined that the nuclear power plant had been attacked by a Ukrainian kamikaze drone. Now, let's go with probabilities and possibilities. Possibilities. Is it possible that the Ukrainians did it? 100%. Is it possible that the Russians did it? 100%. Is it probable that the Ukrainians did it? 99%. Is it probable that the Russians did it? I don't know, 5%. All right, let's move on. Ukrainian forces strike on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant can be characterized as an act of nuclear terrorism on the part of Ukraine's authorities, Russian state corporation Rosatom said on Sunday. Remember, Nord Stream pipelines 1 and 2 were blown up by someone. I think by the Russians, because they want to threaten Europeans with blackmailing them, not selling them oil. Correct? And gas and whatever. Correct? Correct, my friends. You got that? Yeah. And who did it? Я не знаю. I don't know. Right? Move on. In essence, and I'm quoting, this attack is one of the elements of this disabling the station. This is an unprecedented threat to nuclear safety since the nuclear power plant has suffered such serious damage for the first time. The physical integrity of the nuclear power plant has been breached, thereby breaching the basic principles of the IAEA. IAEA will do squat nothing. I guarantee you that. Now, let's go there. Why? Because they are fake. Sputnik again. Moscow calls on international community to act against Ukraine amid strike on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Even if the Russians somehow bring all the evidence, video, even the kamikaze drone with a written made in Great Britain given to Ukraine on this date, even if they bring that as evidence that the kamikaze drone destroyed it and it was Ukrainian or whatever it was, the international community will do exactly what? They will be aware of that, but that will be it. And the mass media in the West will not portray it that way, because I'm going to show you how it portrays it, that incident. So and the community will just see, oh, those are the bad dudes, like we know, and these are the not as bad dudes, okay? Believe me, it's not like the Al Capone is all bad. No. But I think it has the capability, the potential, the military, the economic, the political power to cause a lot of good things and a lot of bad things if it chooses to. Versus, let's say, Romania, all right, or Albania or Zimbabwe, just over there. That's why when you hear, oh, these guys killed 2 million with machetes. In what? In 6 months, you think, oh shit, my God, these guys were efficient in a negative way, obviously. You say, oh, those guys in the Second World War killed this many. Oh my God, yeah, but they killed with what? Airplanes, bombs, bullets, grenades, starvation, and so on. But those guys with machete, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, hutis, tutis, mutis, mutis, cupulutis, tupulutis. Those guys, pop, in what, 6 months? I made a video on that to show you that those guys were actually, if they would have probably have the Western technology, those guys would have been more good at being bad. Anyway, let's move on. So even if the Russians prove that, what's going to happen? The United Nations Security Council, look at these guys in the Golan Golan lights, and others. Do they give that back? No. Occupied territory? Yeah, and they put settlements. They settle. I mean, please, this is a farce. So this is not the first year when Russia is calling on the international community to take urgent measures to influence the Kyiv regime and its Western patrons due to the fact that for Ukrainian president, why do you use Ukrainian? The president of Ukraine, he's in charge of Ukraine. He lives in Ukraine. Zelensky, and why? Genetically. For all those behind him, first of all, Washington, and why? I tell you why. They say it's a religion. It's when I go and have a how do you call it, a testing to see, you know, how is that called? Oh my God, to see your ethnicity, to see your genes, and I did that, and I got 1% a certain kind. Now, if that would be a religion, my DNA would not show 1%. That kind. And I know many people who did that DNA test and they got 1%. Now, a culture cannot show through DNA. So there is something over there, isn't it? I don't know if they're Khazars or they're whatever Ashkenazi they are, but nevertheless, my point is culture could not see through DNA. But so, again, when I talk about Zelensky Stein, he is Ukrainian as I am Zimbabwean. I can live in Zimbabwe, or my children could be born in Zimbabwe, but genetically they will show something else, not Zimbabweans. Good for you, Zimbabwe. Good for you. All right. And for all those behind him, first of all, Washington and London, nuclear power plants are a means and instrument of conducting terrorist activities, end quote, Zakharova told Channel 1. Next one, let me show you how this is portrayed by the Telegraph, obviously. Russia set fire to Ukrainian nuclear plant to blackmail Kyiv, says Zelensky. Not, all right, not alleges, whatever. No. Or claims. No, he says. It's a different. Here is the picture. And we have here Russian forces started a fire on a nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine to, quote unquote, blackmail Kyiv as it pushes into Russian territory, Volodymyr Zelensky said. Got that? Now you know that's how the story goes. And Mr. Zelensky, the Ukrainian, again, president, you got to know that one, like Zhmyhal is also, accused Moscow of attempted blackmail and said it must be held accountable for the provocation. Because you have the evidence, right? Because the Russians bombed themselves. Oh, they are capable of being that bad? Why is that? Is that something particular to the Russian people? Their culture, or just those guys, evil guys in charge of Russia? They're fooling the 145 million people. Well, that's exactly the big lie we're supposed to like that. But only they could use that. The Ukrainians would not do anything like that. And I'm not talking about Ukrainians, the guys in charge of Ukraine. No, they would not. Why? They're just different. Well, that's kind of like xenophobia. I don't want to call it racism at this point because, anyway, xenophobia. My friends, if you've been around the block a few times, you understand there's no such a thing most of the time, all black and all white, or all plus and all minus. I'm talking about in relations among people, between people, among people, how you want to call it. It's in between, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. So if you think that the Ukrainians are all perfect and the guys in charge of Ukraine, I don't know, the USA, the Great Britain, these guys are all good, you just have to look at their past, their history, and just go to My Lai massacre or My Li massacre. I think it was what? I can't even remember, 1968, 69, something like this in Vietnam. The guys burned the whole village. There was a war crime. You have to look at the Second World War. Carpet bombing. Look at Dresden, Second World War. The Allies bombers. They blew up a civilian city. No, I mean, just to use that one. We can use the Brits in their war as well. I mean, you want me to tell you, in Ardennes, what happened over there when they caught again, people at the concentration camps, boom, no judges, nothing, right on the spot. I can give you more. So take it easy. I'm not saying the other ones are saints whatsoever. I'm talking about human nature. And under the circumstances of war, human nature, what's worse in us, comes up. Or maybe not what's worse, what is our instinct. But we suppress it because we are trying to be civilized. Civilized means having some rules agreed upon of conduct based on some values, but those values might be changed by some people in charge of us. Like right now, I can identify as God or whatever, and they will not care. But if I identify as a boop, I definitely am one. All right, let's move on. And it says here, interesting. We are waiting for the world to react, waiting for the IAEA, International Atomic Energy, to react. Russia must be held accountable for this. He already knows it was Russians, and the Russians already know it was the Ukrainians. Now, again, I'm going to show you another display of garbage from CNN. Zelensky says Russian forces started fire at Russian-controlled nuclear power plant in South Ukraine. Why would they do it? Because they want to blackmail. There is the big liar. Russian forces started a fire at the Russian-controlled Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in Telegram, Okay? All right. He called it a provocation or an attempt to create panic. That could be valid for you too, my boy. And reassured that the plant is operating as normal as possible under the conditions of occupation. So, here it is, my friends, for this video. I have another video coming up after this one. So, this is the interpretation they give us. What happened over there? The Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is on fire. That's what happened, or part of it. Now, who did it? Now we can wait a little bit. And I'm pretty sure the Ukrainians or the guys on the other side would say the other guys will say the other ones. Got that? And just to go over today's topics, Pentagon will use us for them because you have to defend them and give them. Then you have the Ukrainians advance in Russia. The Russians said they stopped it, actually. They stopped the Putin said. And Putin is not in control of his army. Why? Because he uses the SBU, I think it's called, the security forces, to push back, not the military, an article claimed. Why? Because that's what they say. It must be true, right? And then we have here Russian forces. Russian authorities announced evacuation from Belgorod region. The Chinese are supporting Iran integrity and sovereignty and dignity. And then you have the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant being attacked by we don't know for sure by whom. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. Where are you, baby doll? Here.